I want to talk about a topic that has received a bad rap recently, being average. I don't know when it became such a bad thing to be average. If you're average and consistent at everything you do in life, then you're going to be okay. However, there is one thing you never want to be average at, and that is saving in an account for yourself for the future so you could have everything you want, money today, tomorrow, and forever. There is nothing more depressing that I've seen in my career in financial services for almost 20 years where people have to start scaling back their life when they stop working. Oh, I can't afford the country club that I wanted. Oh, I can't afford to travel 4 times a year to Europe or Asia, and I'll cut it down to only once a year. I wanted to, but I don't have enough money. I don't want to get that dream car because I can't afford it. I need to make my money last. That's the one thing you don't want to be average at in life. And it's not hard to do. I read this article and I saw by generation how much money each generation has in their IRA balance. And so I wanted to share with you. So I have it right here. So we'll start with baby boomers, people born between 46 and 64. The average balance right now in their IRA is $257,000 after a lifetime of work, because these are millennial and Gen Zs. These are our parents or maybe even sometimes grandparents. They've worked their entire lives. And the average IRA balance is $257,000. Gen X, people born between 65 and 1980. This group average right now, their average IRA balance is $103,000. 103 grand for people between the age of 45 and 60. Millennials right now who are in between the age of 29 and 44. The average millennial IRA balance is $25,109. That should not be the case. We've had opportunities to be putting money away for some pretty down markets, and for it to be for millennials, I'm a millennial, $25,109. We got to get better, right? We got to really start thinking about our future selves. And finally, Gen Z, people who are younger, 18 to 28. Right now, the average balance is 6,672, which they're super young, they're getting started, but still, there's no reason for that either. They're highly educated, they're very smart, they grew up with tech, they should feel confident being able to open up an IRA and do things for themselves. But the millennial Gen Z one, the 25,109, we can catch up and make up for it, right? Unfortunately, the baby boomers at 257,000 average, that is an example of when they were our age, they were thinking they were going to have much more. Oh, I'm going to be different because I'm not average, right? I'm going to be extraordinary. And I've never met anyone that's a baby boomer that wishes that they didn't have extra. They had a lot of pensions and they love their pensions. They love their Social Security. But I've never heard one that says, I wish I didn't do this IRA and have extra money to give to my kids, my grandkids, my church, charities, to go vacation, go to Vegas, whatever it is, right? Nobody ever says, I regret planning and having too much. But 95% of them that I've met said, I wish I had done more. We need to sit down and say, how do we make sure we are okay in the future? And this is something you don't want to be average in, because this average balance, even if we're double what boomers were, if we're twice as good as them, which I don't think we are because they were much more diligent, and they didn't have the temptations we have. They didn't have tech. They didn't have expensive coffees and expensive hamburgers, right? There wasn't all these membership subscriptions, right? It was a different time, and they didn't have the access to really spend money, especially on credit cards like we did. They didn't have credit cards when they were our age. So even if we're twice as good as that generation as far as savings plans, which I don't think is true, but even if we are, and that would give us $500,000 when we are past the age of 60. Now, factor in inflation, that's probably the equivalent for millennials and Gen Zs of having $100,000 today. So even if we're twice as good and have double the amount of them, that's still not going to be enough. So this goes to everybody that's a millennial Gen Z. We have to sit back and say, where am I at? Where do I want to be? And what's it going to take to get there? And everybody can do this. And here's a call to action for everybody. We'll use today dollars. We're not going to use inflation, okay? Ask yourself, what age do you want to stop working? And let's just say it's 60. You want to stop working at 60. And let's say your life expectancy is 90. So that's 30 years. And say if you want $50,000 a year from age 60 to age 90. Okay. So what you do is you bust out a calculator and you do 30 times 50,000. And what you're going to see is that's going to be $1.5 million. So you need to have $1.5 million that you could withdraw 60 to 90. And if you want something a little bit more extravagant where you say, you know what? I don't want to live off 50 grand. I didn't work my entire life and make sacrifices to only live off 50,000 a year. And again, if that is not your only number, then there's nothing wrong with that. But most millennials and Gen Zs that I've talked to, if you tell them they're going to have $50,000 a year for the rest of their life to go do all their traveling and have things and have fun and eat out every day and get their dream car and take care of their family, they're going to say, how's that even possible? So let's just use a bigger number, okay? And let's just say that you want $125,000 a year from age 60 to 90. So you put that calculation in your calculator, $125,000 times 30, because it's 30 years, and that is $3,750,000. So let's just say now that you're 30, okay? And that you're 30 years old and you need to have $3,750,000 to be able to have $125,000 a year from age 60 till the day you die, age 90, hypothetically speaking. So you get that number and then you divide it by 30 because you're going to work for 30 more years. So that means, again, that you have to save $125,000 a year, which is impossible. And say if you're even younger, right? You're like, oh, I'm younger. I'm 20 years old. Okay, $3,750,000. You're going to work for 40 more years. So divided by 40, that means you have to save $93,750 a year. This is basic arithmetic. And most people don't explain it this way, but you can do this basic calculation and realize how much you have to save per year to have what you want. The scary thing is, though, is that's not a factor in taxes or inflation. And this is why everybody says Roth assets, Roth assets, Roth assets, because you will never have to pay tax on all the gains. So assuming that your money isn't all Roth, the biggest threat to us is inflation, right? Because the rule of 72, which I've talked about in a previous video, is you take 72 and you divide it by the inflation that you anticipate that money's going to be at, right? And we're at higher inflation than we've always been, but let's just use a moderate inflation, say inflation going forward for the rest of millennial Gen Z's lives is going to be a 4% average. So take 72 divided by 4, and that's 18. So every 18 years, money loses half its value. So if you're 20 and you're going to live till 90, that is 70 years. So you take 70 divided by 18, and that's 3.88. So we won't even round up to 4 times. We'll round down to 3. So in your lifetime, you're 20. Money is going to lose half its value, a minimum of 3 times in your life. Losing value once by half its value, that drops down to 1,875,000. Losing value twice, half the value twice, divided by 2 again, that's 937,000. And the third time, divided by 2 again, is $468,000. So that means for a 20-year-old, over their life, money at a minimum is going to lose half its value 3 times. So $3,750,000 is equivalent to $468,000 today. Google inflation calculators, and it's even worse because that's actual an inflation calculator with all the algorithm in it. We have to start doing better, millennials and Gen Zs. Do not be average for your future accounts to live off of all of your money.